This is Greg Troutwine with Marine Technology TV, and we're here again with Massa Stancavish, President, CEO, and Chief Innovation Officer for Massa Products Corporation, to discuss this fast-evolving need for acoustic sensing technology in both the government and the commercial spaces. Dawn, I've watched with great interest the steady stream of product and contract wins coming out of Massa for the past year. And while I'm quite certain that most people know the Massa name, can you start us off, give us an updated look behind the curtains at Massa today, a by the numbers look at your company using the metrics of your choice?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Greg. It's great to see you again and be on your program. I always love talking to you. So the Navy, a long time ago, right before World War II, was looking to advance some of their technology to be able to do certain things. My grandfather happened to be a young engineer then, before he founded our company. And he ended up developing one of the first hydrophones. It actually wasn't a thing. It wasn't called a hydrophone at the time. It was an underwater microphone. But he solved a problem for one of his counterparts from his earlier working days, that was trying to pick up the torpedoes from the German wolf packs. And he was pretty much, his friend was actually soundproofing as he was waterproofing an air microphone. And my grandfather got it in the mail, took a look, knew how to fix it, redesigned it, sent it back to his friend on his own money. Time goes on. It turns out it worked perfectly. And they ordered a large contract from my grandfather while he was the head of engineering at Brush Development Company. And ironically, at that same time, and I've told the story many different ways, many different times, but the bottom line is his boss previously did not want to work for the Navy because it was high risk at the time. But because we were ramping up and the War Production Board had eliminated certain components that they required for their core business, the timing of when this hydrophone worked and when they had cut some of these supplies happened to overlap with them being in a meeting trying to figure out how they're going to lay off a whole bunch of people and close up shop. So my grandfather was able to negotiate a $10 million contract, late 30s, early 40s, to produce a large quantity of these hydrophones. That attracted the attention of Admiral Fuhrer for the U.S. Navy, who was in charge of working with industry to build up sonar development. And my grandfather was put in charge of working with the Navy as being able to be in the room, understand what the threat was, design products that were going to meet those needs, and take them from design to production. And in that 3.5 year period, he designed over 200 different types of sonar transducers. 150 of those types were actually put into production, and they were produced in the thousands. After the war was over in 1945, that's when he founded Massa. He consulted for 5 years. Then he bought the land here in Hingham, Massachusetts, and we've been in the same location since 1950. So today, after all these years later, we find ourselves in a similar spot that we did prior to World War II, but the ideas and the foundation of having design through production as a cornerstone in our philosophy are very much alive here, and that's how we've grown. That's how we've been viable. During COVID-19, we stayed open as an essential business, and where a lot of businesses went out of business or had to furlough people, we stayed in person the entire time. And we actually grew. So we grew by more than 50% from then till now, which is an unusual rate. So we're still a certified small business, but we are growing and we know how to build up the workforce and retain the workforce, which is something that other businesses are struggling with, especially now. But we've continued to advance our technology throughout this whole time. Our company right now holds over 170 patents. And we're increasing that number. And our idea is to really think of things differently, because if you just look at your product value as what it is, and just try to make more of that, you're not that's just not sustainable. You want to make sure that you're pushing the boundaries of what you can with your unique product, and the way that it can be advanced should always be thought of and explored.
And again, I know your business, like many in the subsea sector, is driven by multiple markets: defense, offshore energy, and science, chief among them. I'd like to dig into all three, but let's start, if you will, on the defense business, as we're seeing a lot of geopolitical conflicts, as you mentioned before today.
Absolutely. So what the Navy has publicly announced is that we're trying to increase our build of submarines, and there are a couple different types of classes of submarines. There are the Virginia class and the Ohio class, and the Ohio is being replaced by the Columbia class. But the trajectory and the goal is to make one Virginia and two Columbia a year. And here's the parallel from World War II till today, and here's the difference. The parallel is that prior to World War II, we had the Great Depression, and we also had other conflict in the world, like the war started in Germany and in Asia before it reached America. Our allies were asking for help. We were sending supplies to help them. So we were in a similar spot from the sense that we had been hurt by something economically, like the depression. We are hurt now by COVID ahead of where we are now. And right now we're also, that you see conflict out in Ukraine, you see conflict out now in the Gaza Strip, and other places. And we're sending aid. Everyone sees that in the news. We know what we're doing. It's kind of eerily similar to where we were, but in a completely different way. Here's another key difference. America was very much a manufacturing nation in the late 30s, early 40s. We were the leader in manufacturing in many respects. We had, automobiles and all kinds of things, but all constantly being manufactured here. Where we are today, we've shipped a lot of manufacturing overseas. We've heard our president talk about how we have to bring manufacturing more, U.S. based across the board for anything in general. And there aren't that many American manufacturers right now. There's about 11 or 12%. We're trying to grow that. There's been a formal effort that passed through Senate and Congress to help build up the manufacturing. So Massa specifically feels, even though we're very small, that we're an important fixture in this effort, because we've maintained our footing with our technology as being a leader in what we do for the Navy. And we've also maintained that in industry. But we've also maintained the ability to have control over our manufacturing process, continue to grow that process, and have quality products throughout. So we understand how to do that well. So the Navy wants to build up the workforce, build up manufacturing. The president wants to build up, manufacturing across the board, but specifically through the submarine industrial base, to meet the challenge and the requirement to build the 1+2 has been a formal public effort. And Massa is a submarine supplier, and we have a lot of people here that have recently understood a little bit more the value behind what they do. We've been visited by several flag officers over the last year, and that's meant a lot to my people, because they've been able to hear firsthand how the products are used, why they're important, that the job that they're doing is really important for national security, and to inspire other people to come and do this, especially those, we have an interesting demographic. We're located in South Shore, Massachusetts. We're right on the water, which is good. And we have a community here where there's a lot of wealthy families, but there's also families that aren't necessarily so wealthy. So when you look at the kids that are going into college or not, you've got people across the board. And what's also happened at the same time is that colleges, their pricing has increased dramatically. So there's possibly some kids that are technically inclined, might really have had some hopes of becoming an engineer, but when they realized when they're looking at colleges that that might be too frightening outside of their reach in terms of, could they afford it? What's the deal with getting a loan? Is that going to put them in debt? What does that mean? So an option like this is ideal for any kid like that because um, with the rising prices of college and wanting to do something meaningful, and if you like to do that sort of things with your hands and with your mind, you want to be able to build and create new products. To find and know about places like this that are building pieces for submarines is incredibly meaningful and important. And I've been trying to spread that message to younger folks, so that they could understand what they could do here and how where we're located in this community is really important for them. But I'm also spreading that news elsewhere. We're hiring different types of jobs. We have everything from machining to assemblers to engineers. So we have so many different types of technical possibilities for people to come and have a job that's all contributing to a really important national security end goal, plus some cool projects in the commercial and oceanographic side. It's a diverse place, even though we're small, and we're able to do our part and reach more people and inspire them to also want to do more with their life. I mean, people need to find out what it is they want and not give up hope just because of some perceived reason that makes them think or feel that it might be out of reach. There are other solutions, and there's a company called Blue Forge Alliance that's sponsored this amazing ad campaign that where it's called buildsubmarines.com is a website, but they have a couple of commercials that and billboards around that talk about building giants, which refers to submarines, and how more people could have a career doing that. And the website buildsubmarines.com links people all around the country to businesses that are maybe in their area that are doing this effort so that they could find places in their area of interest that might be hiring. And we're one of the companies listed on that. So we're really happy to be a part of that effort.
We talked about the defense. Another leg of your business is offshore energy, both the traditional oil and gas and as well as the emerging offshore wind. The latter, offshore wind, predictably has endured some well-publicized hiccups. But an overview, when you look at the emerging offshore wind business, what opportunities do you see for Massa?
So, from Massa's perspective, being a government contractor as well as being a commercial and oceanographic producer for different types of products and advancing those types of products, what I see with wind is where are the problems and how might we be able to help. I know that there's a lot of issues in that market that span into other areas, and I think that the solution there again is also collaboration, understanding what does um, where are the issues, right? So, like, you've got situations with the offshore wind, where to put the things, how to do it safely without hurting animals, how to know where the animals are, and there's a whole business with that. There's definitely products that we have that assist with those things. There's other aspects of what we do in our product line that have to do with other types of energy. We have everything from level sensors to sub bottom profilers to different types of sensing technologies that can assist in these different areas and can identify different types of things in the water. So that's really what we do there. I see that there's a lot of overlap potentially with different areas that we work, and the types of partners that we have in all these different areas could bring about some really creative solutions to all these different programs and problems that are out there.
You referenced it in the last question as well, but the science sector is an obvious additional area where your company does a lot of business. As you mentioned, mammal monitoring, both in connection to the offshore construction and shipping, has become top of mind with a lot of legislators. And obviously, we talk more and more about the blue economy, but that blue economy means you're working in the water. And when you're working in the water, it has the potential to impact wildlife and the environment. So with that long-winded question, how has this sector specifically driven your business in the last year?
Well, Greg, I'll tell you this one's something that's near and dear to our heart, actually. Way back in the early to mid 1980s, my dad was involved with a sonar grants program that he had with the University of Hawaii, and the program itself was studying the habits and migration of humpback whales. And it turns out, fast forward, we found out that the program that we were involved with, and by the way, I like to joke that that was one of my first business trips because I was a very, very young girl, but I got to go along for the trip and I did get to swim with the whales, which was really cool. So I was on the boat a little bit for these research outings. Obviously, I was not an engineer doing any of the work, but I was there and I saw some of it, which was inspiring. And it made it was a lasting impression on me that sonar is one of those things that over the years has been sometimes blamed for harming animals, but it's actually the main tool also for learning and studying them and understanding where they are and hearing and recording their calls, how they communicate with each other. So there's so much with mammals that we're able to do, and we found out that that study that we did back in the 80s turned out to be the very first study ever done on whales with sonar. And since we've been involved with that since the beginning, we've been very interested in how we could have our technology help animals more and help industry at the same time. I believe that the answer for everyone is not what divides us, but how do we make everything work? There's harmony in the ocean. There's all kinds of different things going on in different areas where it's too easy to say um, that one thing is the problem or one thing is the solution. It's never that. You mentioned legislation. There's groups out there that are even fighting amongst themselves over who gets what slice of the pie. It's all one pie, and they get the funding for it, and how they split it up. If they start fighting amongst themselves, that doesn't help. You need to have partnerships with the people that are getting funding, to the people that are in industry, that the people who are innovating can all collaborate with their little piece to find out a way to really solve the problems. And things should be mission specific. If you're trying to understand an animal, to communicate what it is you want to learn. If you're trying to identify an animal, to communicate what it is you're trying to identify. The end goal should be communicated instead of telling people, okay, I just want something to do something according to these specs. If you tell people something according to the spec, you're not going to get necessarily the solution you're looking for. You're already translating it to the engineers. Um, the way you think they need to hear it instead of telling them what the problem is and allowing them to help you solve it. So I think that all of these issues with mammals, with wind, with any challenge, if you have an innovative partner, and it's better to communicate with them to see if you could find a solution for less money, greater reliability, opposed to trying to get something off the shelf and overwork it yourself, or trying to tell them what you think it is that they need and then you're trying to just take it from there and do it all yourself. It's way better to figure out, okay, what are the goals here? How do we work together to achieve them?
What specifically are the drivers today for the product and technology innovation inside Massa? And what are your customers asking you to deliver today? And how are these decisions impacting your R&D investment?
So the chief innovation officer title, actually, I earned that when I was just recently after I had joined. So I was a part of the board of directors for the company before I actually joined working here, because I actually had my family out of state, and we moved back when the kids were at a right age to make that move. And then I came here to work, and I was learning all the different departments within my my facility here from a different perspective. And I was working in sales, and I was noticing that we were really great at selling products that we understood and that we had, but we weren't always great at connecting the knowledge of what the technology could possibly do and where it could go. And that's where I started to naturally just kind of ask certain questions and fit into that role. And over time, I was able to figure out, hey, there are new ways that we can use our technology in these new spaces, and it resulted in multiple patents. So when um, th- what we decided to start marketing is, don't think of the things you know about in terms of frequency or beam angle or bandwidth or decibel level as that's all there is. There are things that are designated in certain ranges with sound in products that are off the shelf that a lot of people don't even have a clue why they've come up with that frequency level. Um, a lot of on the ultrasonic sensing side, a lot of products have a 40 kilohertz transducer as one of their product offerings. The only reason that transducer exists, I happen to know, came back from when my grandfather was at RCA. They needed to find a frequency that worked for changing the channel on a television. That is the origin of the 40 kilohertz transducer. It has nothing to do with what applications they're used for now. And because they started offering that in their product line, everyone started offering it in their product line. And it just stayed as a staple. But very little people today have any knowledge of the history of that. So there's so many more things that are like that, nuances that people just don't have a clue, and they take what's off the shelf and they do all kinds of fancy processing. That's not what's going to get you a good quality product. Also today, with the threats in the world and the manufacturing need here, having components that are U.S. made becomes very important. You don't want today, especially in certain industries, to buy a product off the shelf that has components that are not made here, or maybe even made um, overseas in certain places that uh, might might not be proper for wherever the sensor might be going. So in those cases, it's good to know who's an American manufacturer who could work with you to make sure that those components are all safe and sound and it can do what you really want them to do, and it's not going to put your business at some sort of liability risk. So that's the innovation side, figuring out where else things can go. And some of the things that we're talking to customers about just have to do with how to have a product really meet the needs that they're looking to achieve. We have a lot of really great relationships with our customers. We also have wonderful new partnerships with some other people that we collaborate with, and it's been a really special experience to be able to improve the business of ourselves and others through the work that we do and through our product offerings. So I think that that's a little different than a lot of business models. A lot of business models, they just look at their product line, they try to increase their revenue, they run it by the balance sheets, they grow by acquisition, they acquire technology by acquiring companies. Where we don't think of it that way. We think of it as we're going to do what we do well, and we're going to apply our brains to the problem and our knowledge of how to make products that are winning.
Your company is obviously engaged in a large number of interesting projects. Can you discuss a recent project, either completed or ongoing, that you believe highlights the Massa brand, both the technology and your people?
Ooh, that's a trickier question. There's a bunch of projects in the works um, that we're really proud of. A lot has to do right now with what we're doing with the government that I can't really say. But on the commercial side, I'm really happy with a product that we're about to launch. It's not quite full stream, but it's going to have so many different types of options with it, and it's way more user friendly than a lot of things on the market. It's a wireless product. and we're going through different certifications. And there's another product that also has the ability to work underwater as well as in air that we're really excited about. That's unusual because it's different types of transducers that work in air than work in water properly. And we've been able to create something that is very unique that we're excited about. We have lots of products that we're really excited about that are on the horizon. The Massa Gizmo wireless sensor is one, and there's in air and out of underwater and in air product that we're working on that's going to be launched soon as well. So in 2024, Massa is going to be doing a bunch of different things on the commercial side as well as underwater oceanographic side as well as um, for the government. And we're very um, excited and honored to be an important supplier for so many important efforts. And I feel that there's a lot more in common with all these efforts than people realize. Um, American freedom and American resources are all part of what the Navy protects, and our products go directly in all of these different areas that are protecting Americans. And then we're also allowing Americans to have a wonderful career here. So I'm really excited about what's on the horizon in terms of how we could do what we can do to help um, with all these really important innovative efforts on the road ahead.
Okay, Dawn, it's always a pleasure to catch up with you. And again, I know you're extremely busy, so I appreciate your time, and I look forward to working with you and your team in the future as well.
Thank you, Greg. Great talking to you.